Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today, going to do the breakdown video for the Fulton Jr. versus Brandon Figueroa unified Super-Bantamweight title fight at 122 pounds that's taking place Saturday, November 27th in the main event of a Showtime card. This is a big one right here. You know, if you guys haven't seen these two guys fight, they're entertaining as hell, and they're both undefeated champions. They both won their world titles this year. It's a big fight because you don't see guys who just grabbed onto their world titles unifying belts in their initial title defense. You just don't see that happen very often, you know? And, you know, these guys obviously want to prove that they feel that they're the best now and not later. You know, you normally see a build-up, or, you know, these guys just try to build their resumes is what they do before they go and risk, you know, a loss like that. And you just don't see this a lot. So it's exciting. It really is, you know. Two undefeated champions, as I said, coming off of their biggest wins, and they're winning their world titles in their last fights, both of them. So, you know, it's a big deal. It was supposed to happen a couple months ago, but I think Figueroa got COVID, so now, so the fight got pushed back to the 27th. But it's going to be an entertaining fight. It really is. You got the little guys, their styles. I like their styles matched up against each other, and I think it's going to be a fun, entertaining fight. It really is close to a 50-50 fight right here. It really could go either way, and I'm just looking forward to it. So I don't really think there's a favorite right now. If I had to say the favorite, it's Brandon Figueroa. So I will discuss him first. But as I always do, you know, with my breakdown videos, I talk about what the favorite and the underdog. I start with the favorite. I talk about what he's done coming into the fight, and what kind of fight he needs to have to be successful and to win. And, you know, can he win by knockout? Can he win by a decision? And then I also discuss the what does it mean for him if he wins? What does it mean for him if he loses? What does it mean for boxing if he wins or loses, wins and loses, or loses? And then I move on to the underdog, ask the same questions, and then after that, I give my prediction on who I think is going to win this fight and why. So we start with I guess what I would say is the favorite, and that is Brandon Figueroa. I would assume he's the favorite just because he's a little bit the bigger name, you know, and maybe his style has earned him that right. You know, Figueroa has been a more viewable prospect over the last few years. You know, he's been coming up, you know, a lot of promise, entertaining, and I think a lot of people want to see him, you know, a lot more people probably want to see him win this fight because of his style, because he's a brawling, that prototypical Mexican style, you know, and he's a big guy at 122. He's a bigger super bantamweight. So, you know, heading into this one, he's coming off of his career best win. You know, he took on Luis Nery back in May, and you know, I thought he'd be too big for Nery. I thought Nery, who's an undefeated two-division champ, I thought he was a little undersized for 122, and I figured, you know, that this guy was going to come in, Figueroa, and just be too much for him, and I was right. You know, he completely pressed him, and he walked through what Nery was throwing, and Nery was landing a lot of shots. Nery did very well in this fight, but he just couldn't keep Figueroa off of him, and finally in the 7th round, a body shot devastated Nery, and Figueroa captured the WBC title. Prior to that, you know, he had a stay busy win last September against a guy named Damian Vasquez, not a big name. And then prior to that, on the Deontay Wilder, Luis Ortiz 2 undercard, he fought to a draw with an overweight former champion, Julio Ceja. So that's what he's done in his last 3 fights, but he's rolling with confidence right now, coming off that win over Luis Nery. So what kind of fight does he need to have to be successful and to win this fight? Figueroa needs to really, cutting the ring off in this fight is hugely important. Where he lacks is defense. He does get hit. He comes straight in. That prototypical Mexican style where he just comes straight in. He needs to jab a little bit more. He needs to work the body as he did with Neary. He needs to work the body for sure. That needs to be, a thing. But cutting the ring off, not letting Stephen Fulton land those shots from angles and to move. And Stephen Fulton, I think, is going to be trying to move a little more than he normally does in this fight. And he's a good counterpuncher, though. So he needs to be wary of that. And if he does that, I think he'll have some success. But it's not going to be easy because this guy is a very good fighter. Is Stephen Fulton Jr. This is a very talent-packed fight right here. So he needs to try to rough him up. He needs to try to bully him, yes. But he needs to work his jab on the way in, use his size, press Stephen Fulton, and really try to, go for it and wear Stephen Fulton down. Now, can he win this fight by knockout? I think he can if he just does the wear down technique, But again, Stephen Fulton's better than anybody he's ever fought, in my opinion. I think Stephen Fulton, talent-wise, probably the most talented guy that Brandon Figueroa has ever fought. So Brandon Figueroa needs to be smart. He needs to, make sure that he, doesn't get caught with multiple big shots and he's not just leading with his head in and everything, but he needs to press him and then he can win by knockout. Can he win a decision? Going to be tough to win by a decision against Stephen Fulton. Stephen Fulton is a very good counterpuncher and he lands good shots on the inside, clean shots that are going to be scoring shots. So I think he can. I'm not saying it's completely out, but I think if this fight goes to a decision, Stephen Fulton's got the advantage on the cards, in my opinion. Now, can he? What does it mean for Brandon Figueroa if he wins this fight? Well, it's huge. It puts him. He's already number 2 right now in the division. I think it puts him dead even, to be honest, with Mirajan Akhmadaliev. I think it puts him, in a dead even thing because Akhmadaliev's already a unified champion. He has the WBA and the IBF belts, and Figueroa would hold the WBC and the WBO belts, and that would, really just raise his stock and put him right at the top of 122 and maybe set up an undisputed title fight at some point. That'd be huge right there sometime next year. So a win here is huge for Figueroa. He has one of the best years, of anybody in boxing, and he really, raises his stock. He definitely would be the Super-Bantamweight of the year with a win. So a win here would be big. What does it mean for Figueroa if he loses? Well, depending on how he loses. Obviously that's always a case here. But if he goes out there and gets his ass whipped, against Stephen Fulton, then, hey, it's gonna hurt his career, quite well. People aren't gonna have the same kind of look as they have on him. But, if he goes out there and loses a close decision, something on that level, I think people are still going to be like, well, he lost to a boxer. I think that's going to be the angle if he loses a close one and he's in the fight. He lost to a boxer, close fight. He's a big guy. He should move up to 126, whatever. But, and if it's really close and he loses, then maybe that sets up a rematch between the two, which would be huge. So, depending on how he loses, it could hurt him. I don't think it's going to hurt him too much because Stephen Fulton's the real deal. So I think people will understand that. Plus, he has the option of moving up in weight because he is a big guy at 126 or 122. What does it mean for boxing if Brandon Figueroa wins this fight? I think it's probably a little bit better for boxing if he wins than loses because he's an entertaining, mix-it-up type guy. So becoming a unified champ, people are going to continue to want to see him and tune in more and more and more, which they're going to do anyways, but especially if he becomes a unified champion, the more belts he racks up and the higher profile he gets, the more people are going to want to watch him. So, it's better for boxing if he wins this fight. What does it mean for boxing if he loses? Hurts boxing a little because not as much though. Again, in terms of everything, it's 50-50 in this fight. It's close to 50-50. Yeah, probably be a little bit better. His style is maybe a little bit more attractive than Stephen Fulton's, but Stephen Fulton's an undefeated champion too. So if he wins, it's still going to be, people still have an undefeated unified champion no matter what. But, yeah, I mean, he's more entertaining. So that's going to be, the thing that for why it's a little bit better for boxing if Figueroa were to win as opposed to lose. Now we go over to the underdog. Technically the underdog, Stephen Fulton Jr. He's the undefeated WBO champion. He's rolling into this fight coming off of his career best win too. He dominated Angelo Leo, who is an undefeated brawler. And Leo, I picked him to beat Stephen Fulton in that fight because of the way he looked against Tremaine Williams, who was an undefeated prospect on the rise. Angelo Leo handled him over 12 rounds, even though he had to take that fight on short notice because he was supposed to fight Fulton last August, and Fulton came down with COVID. But I really thought Leo was going to beat Stephen Fulton, and that just didn't happen. Stephen Fulton put hands on Angelo Leo. He dominated that fight. He really did. He didn't stop him, but he absolutely dominated Angelo Leo over 12 rounds. Clean, and dare I say one-sided decision. He really looked good in that fight, Stephen Fulton did, and showed me a lot of things that shows me this guy could be the future of 122, 126, possibly moving up to 130 at some point. But this guy is going to be a hard out for anybody, in my opinion. Sorry guys, drawing a blank here. What kind of fight? All that being said, prior to that, the thing about Stephen Fulton, this is his 4th consecutive undefeated opponent that he's facing. So he's knocked off 3 straight undefeateds. So he is used to being in this role where it's your O versus my O. He's used to that. He's rolling into this fight very confident. What kind of fight does he need to have to win this one? Well, he doesn't need to draw himself into a dogfight. I'll tell you that right now. He doesn't need to stand there and go toe-to-toe with Brandon Figueroa. Figueroa's size and his power is going to be, he's a little bit different than Angelo Leo. He has better power, in my opinion, and he's not that. Angelo Leo's more an accumulation puncher. Wears you down, with an accumulation of a lot of shots. And so does Figueroa, respectively. But Figueroa's a little bit bigger, and he throws, I think he's a little bit stronger. So if Stephen Fulton gets drawn into that kind of fight, it's going to hurt him. But he needs to fight Brandon Figueroa the way he fought Angelo Leo. I think if he does that, he could be very successful in this fight. I really do. Stay in the pocket at moments, throw your counter shots, throw combinations, but Brandon Figueroa, the one thing I keep saying about him is he's hittable. He is very hittable because of the way he fights. He comes straight in, and he doesn't box a lot on his way in. So that, like I said, the draw against Julio Ceja really spoke volumes to me. The fight with Luis Neri, he wasn't dominating that fight when he knocked Neri out. So it was basically just walking through Neri's shots, where I thought Neri was winning the fight and outworking him, but he just kept grinding through, and he was a bigger man, and he landed that wicked body shot after wearing down Luis Neri. But if Fulton gets drawn into that kind of fight, he's not going to go, he might not make it the distance. But if he could stand there, use his angles, box, and throw those short counter shots like he did against Angelo Leo, he could be very successful against Brandon Figueroa. Can he beat Figueroa by knockout? I mean, I guess anything's possible, but Figueroa does have a pretty solid chin, and I don't think Stephen Fulton has that lights-out type power. So, you never know when a perfectly timed counterpunch or uppercut gets landed if you could really beat somebody. But I think his best chance of beating Figueroa is by a wear-down stoppage more than anything else. That's what I see, if he were to do it. But I think it's a low % chance that he wins by knockout. But again, you never know. Can he win by decision? I think it's a lot more likely he wins a decision. This fight goes to the scorecards. In my mind, I think it's a higher percentage that he pulls off the win over than Figueroa does on a decision. But yeah, I think he could definitely beat Figueroa by a decision for sure. What does it mean for Stephen Fulton if he wins this fight? Well, same thing as I said with Figueroa. It's going to mean the world. He becomes the unified champion. He sits there right at the top of the division with Murajan Akhmadaliev, maybe sets up a unification bout next year. I mean, the road is so, his star is so on the rise. Everything points upwards if he pulls off the victory here over Brandon Figueroa. It's huge. What does it mean for him if he loses? Well, again, depending on how he loses, you know, he gets knocked out, people are going to think he's not as good as we thought. If he gets dominated, if he loses a close decision to where Figueroa doesn't want to fight him in a rematch, I think Stephen Fulton's going to be one of those guys that people aren't going to rush to the front of the line to fight him because he's such a good boxer, you know. So I think a loss here can very much so hurt his career a lot. So I think a loss really hurts Stephen Fulton in this one. What does it mean for boxing if Stephen Fulton wins this fight? Well, as I said, it's probably a little worse for boxing if he wins, but I don't think it's going to devastate boxing because you still have an undefeated and unified champion if he wins. So it's going to hurt boxing a little more if he wins as opposed to loses. What does it mean for boxing if he loses? Well, I just answered that question. It makes him, you know, it helps boxing more if he loses. But again, it's not going to devastate boxing, and it's not going to devastate his career either. So, you know, it's not going to be the worst thing if he loses this fight for boxing. So, at the end of the day now, I got to give my prediction on this fight, and I think it's going to be a good one. I think you're in for a very entertaining fight right here, and two very attractive styles matching up. But who am I picking in this fight? You know, I'm going to go with, I really do think it could go either way. I do. But if I have to pick one guy, I'm picking Stephen Fulton Jr. to beat Brandon Figueroa by a close decision. I just think his counterpunching ability and his ability to land those short shots, the way he handled Angelo Leo, absolutely handled him, tells me that. And the way Brandon Figueroa, how hittable he is, tells me that. So, you know, I think it's going to be a very good fight. I'm very much so looking forward to it. But I think at the end of the day, Stephen Fulton Jr. is a little bit better, and I think he's going to win a close decision in this one, but convincing. Close but convincing decision, and he's going to be your unified Super-Bantamweight champion of the world. But I definitely think Brandon Figueroa is a live underdog. If he can wear Stephen Fulton down, it definitely can be his fight, and he could stop Stephen Fulton or possibly pull off a close decision too. So we'll see what happens. That fight's taking place Saturday, November 27th on Showtime. Make sure you check it out for the unification bout for the WBC and WBO Super Bantamweight world titles. I hope you guys enjoyed it. True boxing. You've been hit with the truth.